Hi, my name is Karen Ziegler, and I am a design thinking consultant, and I help executives innovate the future of how their companies work. And this is our third Ask Me Anything segment. So if you are enjoying these, or maybe if this is your first one, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video or this channel so that you won't miss a single episode of Ask Me Anything, because even though design thinking has been around for quite a while and there's lots of learning out there, the way it is applied to leadership and leadership principles does have a few tweaks to it. So you're sure to learn something new. Today, I had a wonderful conversation, which actually we're going to share with you in just a minute. But instead of just reading you the question, the question came from a professional who integrates empathy and research to get to the heart of things at work. Her name is Debra Kurtz, and one question led into several, and so we decided to record the conversation for you. So it's not just going to be me talking today. So let's get started with this week's Ask Me Anything.
Karen.
Hi.
I wanted to ask a question about utilizing design thinking in a slightly different way. I was curious to know if it's just meant for leadership, for problem solving, or could it be introduced to a group to improve some of their team development or conflict resolution ideas? And could it be introduced in a brief way as a half-day facilitation?
Yeah, great question, Deborah. You know, at its root, design thinking is a creative problem solving technique, process, whatever you want to label it. So it literally can be applied to any problem that exists. Now it's design thinking's evolution has kind of matched the evolution of, I guess, the business world. It started out in the industrial age, and it was strictly for product development. You know, how do we make a better widget? Then, you know, it trickled into how do we make a better widget faster or more efficient. As it turned into the information age, it was all about services. How do we create a better service experience? And also the computers and technology that kind of ran in the background behind that. But as it's become, you know, that's a long history of effective use over the industrial age and the information age. As we've come into the experience age, and especially with the pandemic and also with this great resignation that we're going through right now, it's really starting to be applied to any type of leadership. And now, instead of the user being the customer that's experiencing our product or service, the user is the employee. And how do we create a better experience for them that's going to, you know, encourage them to stay, encourage them to, you know, put their most innovative and creative self forward. It's being used for business modeling, business transformation, change management, you name it. So it's there's not a problem that it can't be applied to. You know, my first use of design thinking, I was a frontline manager managing a small customer service and sales team. So I really just used it to maximize the performance of the small team I had. So it can be used, you know, if you have a KPI that you're responsible for and you have a team of, you know, 3, 5, whatever that team may be, you can use it to impact the performance of that team. And whether that KPI is a sales number like mine was, or maybe you're in accounting and it's something different, it still has the potential to impact it because you're really engaging everyone in the process. You're coming up with creative and innovative new solutions and ideas to improve how you go about meeting that KPI. So there really isn't a limit. It can be applied on a small scale with no budget to small problems, or it can obviously be applied, which a lot of the design-led companies do, huge problems with big budgets and create new innovations from it. So it just depends on the level of leadership that applies it. Now, to your second question about how much time, you know, I conducted in a workshop where basically we experienced the empathy phase pre-workshop. And then during the workshop, we focus on the design, the define the problem phase and the ideation phase. And then we kind of send them off on their own to finish it up with the prototyping and testing. But you can get quite a bit of the process knocked out of the way with those first 3 steps in a group. So for instance, if you're a mid-level manager, maybe you are responsible for 10 frontline managers. You can come together and in a half-day workshop, get a good idea of what are the problems your team is facing and get some really big steps taken care of into getting those resolved and getting closer to the vision that you have as a midline manager.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you do your pre-workshop empathy activity?
It really comes down to user interviews. Obviously, it's going to take some time. That's why I limit them to 25 or less, because obviously you don't want to pour in 100 hours in pre-workshop interviews. But when you're dealing with, whether it's a division or a certain line of business, it's pretty easy to have a conversation because then you can get a lot of information in 30 minutes or less through talking to the different users on the team. And if you're talking about one team, say an executive with their C-suite, you're talking maybe 7, 8 members of a team. So that's really doable.
You're doing your qualitative research.
Exactly. Exactly. But that's one of the funnest parts for me. And as a researcher, to get to meet new people, learn from new people, understand the challenges they're facing. That's kind of the heartbeat of what I do and I love that part of it. So if all I did was workshops, that'd be okay, because I'd meet a lot of great people. I'd learn a lot of great things and hopefully equip them with the tools to help them take their teams to the next level.
I'm sure that they appreciate being heard, because frontline managers have access to more information than senior levels at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you use during your workshop for ideation or prototyping?
Say that again.
What did you use during your workshop to move them through the ideation and the prototype stage of design thinking?
Well, back up 1 second. Before the pre-workshop user interviews, there's also a vision conversation that goes on with the leader. So what is the vision? Because that vision and that clarity of vision gets taken into the user experience interviews, because that's what you're trying to get feedback on: what's working, what's not working, how can it be improved. So really the crux of the workshop is, okay, we have a clear vision. We have all the research that shows, the challenges facing that vision, what's working facing that vision. So the workshop itself is really about defining the problem that we want to solve, and then ideating. So, and already, I'm privy to the fact that in doing the user interviews, I already know some of the great ideas that the leaders in the group have for the ideation phase. So it's really just flushing those out and seeing where they overlap and synthesizing all that information, as well as seeing how it's interconnected, and yes, really synthesizing it to see what's the core issue and how to help them go about solving it from there.
Do you have any specific activity recommendation, or is it more important just to get them talking?
It's more important just to get them talking. And I think that because it's different from product design. In product design, the user that you interview and then the people that are doing the ideation are two different things. When you're doing design thinking as a team sport, the people you're interviewing it with your user experience and the people that are ideating are the same. So because you've had those private user experience interviews, they're much more, they've already opened up and told you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so now that that's all out in the open, and then in the workshop itself, obviously we don't point fingers at anyone, but they know this isn't just my problem. Other people are feeling the same thing. okay, shoo, I can let down my guard, I can take off the mask, and we can have some real conversations about what the challenges are. Because, it's not just me, I don't mean to bring up something negative or, a challenge. You don't want to be the odd man out, but then it becomes more of a team. Okay, everyone's facing this. This is an issue for everyone. Then that means everyone's on board for creating a solution that's going to solve it. So problems get solved a lot faster because of that.
I was going to ask you a question actually about that. How do the respondents feel after you've taken them through this exercise?
Well, they love it because, one, back to the user interview, there's tremendous relief just from having been heard, just from having been asked what their opinion was. But when you get to the ideate and you're not only have asked their opinion, but now we're going to do something about what they had to offer, it's quite empowering. And you're also, through those first three phases, finding out what excites them about the problem. Oftentimes with employees, their greatest frustration is they know the challenge and they actually have some really good ideas about how to fix it, but nobody's asking and nobody wants to hear. But so in the ideation, it becomes pretty exciting because they know what piece they want to bring to the table. And it's usually from their gifts and talents that maybe their everyday job doesn't necessarily utilize as much as they would like. So it's not adding one more task to their plate. It's actually adding a little more excitement as a foundation to what they're doing. So they usually get pretty pumped up about participating in the ideate, and then obviously going off after the workshop to go prototype and test the solutions.
I'm going to ask you one more question because I have pity on you. I have many, many questions always, but it's really fascinating to me. While I understand that design thinking as a problem solver takes time to implement, on average, how long do you think it does take a team to make the best use of design thinking in their functions?
Well, it really depends on the magnitude. Like when I was a frontline manager and we were working on the KPI of sales and service markers, milestones. I mean, we could really, I would go, and this happened way too many times, is I would go into a branch that had fallen to the bottom because I was in the financial industry at the time, take them through design thinking. And within 6 months, 6 to 12 at the latest, we were in the top 10% of our region every single time. So it just depends on the magnitude of the problem. Obviously, if you're talking a change initiative and you're wanting to get as much employee involvement in that initiative as you can so that it has a greater chance of success, then that's going to slow maybe your traditional method of change management. But the thing that people have to understand is that yes, it's going to be slower overall, but the implementation is going to be so much more greater because people are not resistant to the change and fearful of the change because they created it themselves. So they're excited about it. So on one hand, it may be a little slower in the beginning because you're getting all this information from everybody, but in the end, it's going to go faster because there isn't that resistance, because there's excitement, because they all have ownership in it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that definitely makes a difference. I'm enjoying asking you questions, and I'm sure we could go all day if I kept trying. Is there anything that is the key takeaway for me to use design thinking in the best form of leadership?
Well, there's probably a whole list of these, but I'll tell you what comes to mind because I know your expertise is in empathy, and obviously empathy is a key in relationships, but there is a balance for leaders in empathy. I feel, as I'm sure you feel, empathy should be something that we practice all the time. But I was reading a piece of empathy by another psychologist shared on LinkedIn the other day, and it was talking about the 3 steps, and I won't get them right here, but it was basically listening to them, validating their feelings, and something else. But that was it. It was all around the listening piece and the validation piece. Well, I don't feel that empathetic leadership is enough. And it's not going to keep your employees staying. And I wrote this in the post on that, or the comments on that post. Thank you that you cared. I mean, that's a human need. We all need to feel like we're being cared for, but you didn't care enough to change. And that to me is where innovation comes in. Yes, I want you to listen to me. I want to be heard. I want to validate you to validate my feelings, because they are me. I am my feelings. And if you've walked into a room and you felt negative feelings or you felt positive feelings, you know that negative feelings can really be a wall to any progress. You're not going anywhere when those exist. But, if I'm coming to you and I'm saying, I'm really frustrated, I'm angry, I'm wasting this many hours a day because I can't get through the processes, or I'm making workarounds for the way things exist, and all you do is listen and validate my feelings. After a while, I don't care. I want you to remove that frustration. I don't want you to keep validating my feelings about that frustration. Those types of things is where the innovative leadership comes in, and why I say that empathetic leadership is not enough. I
will debate that with you on another occasion, but I will say that I think what you just said about innovation leading to action and change is definitely the mic drop comment.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being so open and so forthcoming, Karen, and sharing a better understanding of design thinking and how to use it in the workplace. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. Well, there you have it. A great conversation with Debra Kurtz, a professional empathy and researcher of empathy in the workplace. Appreciate her time, and I hope you'll check out her page on LinkedIn as well, and the resources that she offers if you are in the market to learn more about empathy and the powerful impact that it can have on your workforce. That's it for this episode of Ask Me Anything. Now we're on to the next. So if you have questions about leading by design using the innovative principles of design thinking as a leadership practice, then be sure and drop me a message on LinkedIn, or you can message me at Karen@KarenZiegler.com. I look forward to our next Ask Me Anything segment, and unpacking for you the powerful tool that is design thinking, the practice that is going to unleash the potential of your employees, remove obstacles in processes and hierarchies, and create an ecosystem of innovation in your organization. Thanks again, like and subscribe, and until next time, have a wonderful day.